Would have to be a change to the charter as well as the police chief. So that we have here from our attorney that basically says we would not be able to adopt 105 C1 by warrant article, that it would have to be a change to the charter as well as the police chief. So maybe everybody's read it, but I think we have people in the audience who do not have the privilege of having the letter in front of them.
Having not seen the letter, I would comment that the charter says that the town administrator shall appoint all department heads. I would argue that then we are now in violation of the charter because the town administrator did not appoint the police chief. The commission does. So I don't think you can read that both ways. I mean, are we in violation of our charter, but yet we have a commission that has authority to appoint the police commission, the police chief? I would argue that replacing 412 with 105 would be the same situation that we have now. The commission would appoint, or there would be an elected position. But I don't think, I guess the reasoning would have to be, is he considered a department head under the town government? That's the ongoing discussion.
Well, I think you raised two good points. First off, I'm not sure why anybody, I'm glad that you did bring it up, and it concerns me as well. You've got a legal opinion here, and although I am truly in favor of 105C, and I think that people should have a look and have the ability to vote on things, the problem that I have is if we were to put this on, I guess the question I have, and maybe we should have Attorney Buckley here, what does it mean? Because according to what he said, our lawyer said that we can put it on, but it means nothing because it needs a charter amendment. So I'm confused, to be honest with you.
I guess then I would ask you, is our current chief of police the chief of police? Because he was clearly not appointed by the department head, by the administrator.
I think because there is a police commission, that's a department head that is not appointed by I mean, that has not been an issue. I certainly don't treat him, he attends meetings for informational, but there's no oversight or anything. Our attorney reiterated, which he indicated initially to you in the discussion back and forth, that the only way that could change would be a charter amendment, which was too late to do this year, and if the town was interested in doing it, it would have to be next year. So what he's re-indicated when he looked at, and we do that with any proposed amendment, say legally, can this go or not? Will it have any validity? Sometimes people will submit a charter amendment, and legally, if it's not correct, even if the majority exceedingly passed it, it wouldn't be able to be implemented. That's the case in this. It couldn't be implemented because we've been advised it has to be a charter amendment based on our charter.
Well, I haven't seen, excuse me, I haven't seen the letter, but in my discussion with the attorney, it was my impression that if you vote to abolish the commission and that's all that happens, that an elected police chief could not occur because you would appoint the police chief. But I did not get the impression that if 105 took place, that would be the case, because I would argue that if we go under 105 with the commission, we are virtually in the same position that we're in right now, that they have the power over the police chief position. Because if you adopt 105, the police commission would appoint the chief. So we would be in violation of, we are in violation of the charter, and we would be. I guess the other point I would have is that I mean, we are in violation of the charter on a number of other issues at this time. I'm not saying we should add one more, but I think you have to look at it one way or the other. Are we in violation now, according to that letter? I mean, is that the way you read it?
There's no reference to that.
That's right.
It references the discussion actually that you had with him. So I think that without him here, I don't want to speak for his interpretation of whether or not we're in a violation or not. I mean, so we've been in violation since 1974 then, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, it was my impression, talking to him, that if you had a separate commission, that was not violating the charter. The charter would be violated if our charter said that the administrator appoints all department heads, and then someone brings forth a warrant article to say, no, we want to make one of those department heads elected. I agree with that. But the situation now is, we don't consider him a department head under the town administrator. I think that's pretty clear. I mean, we've talked about that as far as administrative code. We've talked about that as far as a lot of different issues.
I'd like to add one more point, because it's not clear to me in my readings as well, that by abolishing the commission and rescinding 412, that now there is nothing that reflects what, other than, once again, by deferring, you can say that you fall under 105 for 1 year. Now, I've sought my own legal attorney on this, and he indicated that for 1 year you fall under 105. But if 105 is not reflected in the charter, then the question then becomes, can someone all of a sudden say, well, wait a minute, yeah, the provisions of 105 that protect my job, or the chief of police job, or his actions and his rights as the police chief are covered, but the town doesn't have any other authority, because that's what we're working with right now with the police commission. The chief is saying, you're under 412, I'm under 105. You have no authority. Now you abolish, rescind 412, but you have nothing in place that's hard-coded. Now that might not mean anything, but right now, as you can see from that legal opinion, there's a lot of gray area here. And there's one thing that concerns me greatly as we head into the legal battles that we have, is all of a sudden creating a major gray area in which all of a sudden have all the issues and sought legal counsel on this. There's a giant unknown. The charter, and all of a sudden things start unraveling. From a taxpayer perspective, once again, if we jump into this and we haven't looked at all the issues and sought legal counsel on this, there's a giant unknown. And I know what that unknown ends up, if the unknown goes negatively, it impacts the taxpayer in legal settlements.
Well, I think you can make a point for the same here as well. If this would go through, somebody could challenge it and say, doesn't mean anything because you need a charter amendment.
Well, I'll use the example of the warrant article petition, which we just talked about last week. Confusion, I mean, I spoke in front of this entire body and said something that was absolutely not true. And nobody in the room knew it. And the reason is because the state law superseded the charter. So it took a while to figure that out. But I would offer that the state law supersedes your charter. And you can write something in the charter, but if the state law supersedes it, then you cannot uphold what is written in the charter. That was the opinion that I got about the amount of signatures that was needed for the warrant article petition. So I think if a state law is formed, I think you're going to have to adjust the charter to it. I think, or your charter will not be in line with the state law, as we are on a number of issues right now. We're just not in line.
I'll also offer, based on my counsel's legal opinion, or I should say verbal opinion, because it's not a written opinion, is that his opinion was that rescinding 412 will force you into 105 anyways for 1 year. That was his statement, for 1 year. And I believe that's the idea, is by default, you would fall under 105 until you adopted 105. That's my, but once again, I think the town's legal counsel needs to investigate that.
And that has been, I have asked the question, what our legal advice has been to change that. You need a charter amendment for elected police chiefs, so these warrants would not be effective. Articles, we would fall under 105. Should that, the current article pass, it would fall then under 105. subsequent, if any other changes needed to be made down the road, they would be looked at the following year. But we're not in violation with our charter the way it is now as far as the police chief, because we have a police commission. It doesn't fall as a department head. And he also indicated he felt adding all of these others would be very confusing to the public. But it's the council's choice how they want to implement this. But clearly, our legal advice, and you can have 20 different attorneys, whoever you're speaking to, is it has to be done by a charter amendment if you wanted an elected police chief.
Is 412 embedded in the charter? Is it written, in the charter, is it written that?
Not by number. It's what legislatively was adopted, which is followed by.
Well, Mrs. Granville, I'm a little bit confused because you're saying that we're not in violation of the charter because we have a commission. So therefore, because it's a commission, the commission can appoint. So I would have the same argument that if we adopted 105, we would have a commission, and the commission could appoint. If the third warrant article went through, it would then allow it to be elected. But that chief is still managed by the commission. So I don't understand how we can not be in violation of what we're doing, but yet we can't move to a commission.
We've been advised, based on the charter and the administrative code, because there is a police commission, that department head does not fall as all the other department heads currently. Now, should this go forth to change and abolish that, then it would. So if subsequently next year there needed to be charter amendments, they would be done so at that time.
I'd just like to clarify that. Are you saying if the commission was abolished and 105 established a commission, that would be a charter violation in itself, the first two? Because I don't see how that's any different than what we're doing right now.
Oh, I wasn't referring to 105 establishing the police commission, because that was indicated it would be confusing. We're eliminating one, starting another. I was referring to the elected chief.
Well, I would certainly hope that this council would not hesitate to put something on the ballot because it is not as simple, as a one sentence. I have to do my taxes and they are not simple. We have to figure out certain things. I think that it's time that we look at the structure. I think we have a structure problem in our police department. And I think the way to address that is to look at how we can restructure. And I would certainly like to, I just don't see how we can not have a commission or we're not violating the charter. Those two just don't seem to fit together to me.
I will not support placing either one of these articles on the ballot because a long time ago I was given advice from somebody I respect highly to not go against your lawyer's opinion if you are paying for his advice, then accept his advice. Our lawyer at this point in time, to me anyway, is recommending that we don't put these warrant articles on the ballot.
With that being said, I'll make a motion not to put these articles on the ballot.
I'll second. You want? I'll second.
Second by Councilor Paradise. Any further discussion or questions?
I guess I would just like to speak. So I guess for clarification, our legal counsel recommended that, our legal counsel said that we could put them on the ballot, but they would be advisory only. It was not, at least in the letter I'm reading, recommended one way or the other whether or not to place them on the ballot. It was just that if they were placed on the ballot, they would need to be considered advisory